Hey everybody, and welcome to episode number 7 of the Mindseed Show. Since we're coming up on March 22nd, 2022, 322, I wanted to make an episode about the secret society called Skull and Bones, which operates out of Yale University, also known as Order 322. So before we jump into this article from Britannica.com, I want to jump over to a clip from a documentary called Yale's Secret Exclusive Society Producing America's Leaders. And this was produced by Journeyman Pictures, which I highly recommend. They've got a lot of great documentaries. Obviously, I can't show the whole hour plus documentary here, but here's a little clip with a brief introduction about the group.
It's called the Skull and Bones Society, and members such as this alumnus we found lurking near the tomb don't like chatting about their society.
Nobody's going to talk with you. This is a private club.
A private club with a long and mysterious history dating back to 1832. It meets inside a building called the Tomb. Past members have ranged from President Taft to Secretary of War Stimson. And a more current membership list obtained by American Journal reads like who's who.
Is it a Bonesman secret?
It includes politicians such as Senators John Chafee of Rhode Island and John Kerry of Massachusetts. Then there's Victor Ashe, the mayor of Knoxville, Tennessee, and columnist Bill Buckley, along with top businessmen and federal judges.
So yeah, just a little clip kind of showing how a lot of the alumni from the secret society have gone on to hold very powerful and influential positions. People can kind of make up their own minds about that as we continue, but I just thought that was a good introduction to the group. So going back over to Britannica.com, let's see what they have to say in this article. So Skull and Bones is a secret society of senior students at Yale University, New Haven, Connecticut, that was founded in 1832. Male society members are called bonesmen, and many have ascended after graduation to positions of prominence in business or government. 3 of them, William Howard Taft, George H.W. Bush, and George W. Bush, became U.S. presidents. The emblem of the society is a skull and crossbones with the number 322 beneath it. The number is generally taken to refer to the year, 322 BCE, of the death of the Greek orator Demosthenes, a turning point in the transformation of ancient Athens from democracy to plutocracy. The society's clubhouse is a monumental brownstone building in New Haven called the Tomb. Originally built in 1856, the tomb was doubled in size in 1903 and has since been further enlarged. So, in terms of the emblem of the group, here's a picture of it right here. Obviously, you got the skull, we got the crossbones, and the number 322. Skull and Bones is the oldest of several secret societies on the Yale campus. Like most of the others, it chooses 15 new members every spring at a ceremony called Tap Day. Juniors are notified of their selection by a society member who ritually claps them on the shoulder. The society has always kept its affairs secret, but for many years it publicized its membership roster. So yeah, just kind of a little introduction to the group. It's still really shrouded in secrecy. A lot of the alumni have kept their oath to the group, I guess, and there hasn't been a lot of information that's leaked. There is a little bit of footage that has leaked, some very grainy footage that was covered by ABC News, and we'll be getting into that in a little bit. But if we jump over to the Wikipedia article about Skull and Bones, you can kind of read that on your own. I'll post that in the sources, and it just kind of explains exactly what we were just learning in the Britannica article, but just reinforces a lot of that. And of course, we have a lot of awesome sources down here that you can continue your own investigation and research, whatever you want to call it. Now, jumping over to BusinessInsider.com, we have the 13 most powerful members of Skull and Bones. Now, a lot of these earlier ones I'm not really familiar with. William Howard Taft, of course, but I'm not really familiar with Walter Camp. But as we keep going, we'll notice a trend in terms of the people who have been part of the secret society. So George Herbert Walker Bush, class of 1948. We have John F. Kerry, class of 1966. And George W. Bush, class of 1968. So already we can see not the most benevolent individuals on the face of the planet, to say the least. Who else we got? Oh, there's another one. Stephen Mnuchin. Yeah, there's another gem. Sarcasm. Yeah. So we can kind of see a trend when it comes to these powerful graduates of the Skull and Bones Society. And if we go over here to the Wikipedia list of Skull and Bones members, it's very comprehensive. Again, we're not going to recognize all the people on the list, but it also lists their positions, and there are a lot of people who have graduated from this secret society and who have occupied powerful positions. If we go down here to the 1940s, we can see right here, there we go, we got George H.W. Bush, 41st President of the United States, 11th Director of Central Intelligence CIA, son of Prescott Bush, father of George W. Bush. His Skull and Bones nickname was Magog, or however you say that. But there you go. So this society isn't necessarily breeding the most benevolent, well-intentioned people. I mean, anyways. So jumping over to this news clip from ABC News from April 23rd, 2001, where there was actually somebody who leaked some footage of a Skull and Bones ritual that was taking place in the courtyard. So let's check it out. It's kind of interesting, a little bit tough to find, a little bit grainy, but it's okay.
We couldn't resist. Here's ABC's Dan Harris.
The videotape provides a grainy glimpse into what appear to be the initiation rituals of a secret society that's been around since 1832, whose members have gone on to be leaders of Wall Street and the White House, the Senate and the Supreme Court.
They're sort of trying to scare the initiates, make them, disorient them, frighten them.
New York Observer investigative reporter Ron Rosenbaum accompanied a team of Yale students who shot these pictures 9 days ago. Rosenbaum's curiosity about Skull and Bones was permanently piqued when, as a classmate of George W. Bush, he lived right next to the Tomb, the group's heavily fortified home. From their perch, Rosenbaum and his cohorts taped the tomb's courtyard. What they captured, they say, was initiates, known as neophytes, being forced to kiss a skull, then members performing a mock killing. It may look like your average fraternity nonsense, but Rosenbaum says it's not.
Even though it may seem silly to us, it seems to mean something to them, and you can't argue with the success of Skull and Bones.
True. Famous alums include Senators John Kerry and John Chafee, to name two.
You know, it's actually, I should just interject here quickly. So John Kerry and George W. Bush Jr., both graduates of the Skull and Bones Society, actually ran against each other. I can't remember what year the U.S. election took place, but in one of the elections, and obviously in opposing political parties, right? So you have these two guys who are actually a member of the same secret society who are running against each other in supposedly two distinctly separate political parties. I just find that kind of interesting. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Cabinet secretaries such as Averell Harriman, and three presidents, William Taft, George Bush, and George W. Bush, who's been reluctant to talk about Skull and Bones.
Does it still exist? The thing is so secret, I'm not even sure it still exists.
In recent years, by many accounts, the on-campus influence and allure of Skull and Bones has waned dramatically, and there is no proof that the rituals recently caught on videotape are the same ones performed by the current president. Still, Rosenbaum says the tape is a valuable artifact, an extremely rare view into the secret society that groomed the American ruling class for generations. Dan Harris, ABC News, New York.
That's our report on.
So there we have it. I just thought that was kind of an interesting find coming from ABC News. It's a little bit rare and tough to stumble on, so I just wanted to kind of show that footage. And lastly, just wanted to show another clip from that same documentary from Journeyman Pictures that I was playing before, where George Bush Sr. actually gets asked about his membership in the Skull and Bones Secret Society.
The best-known bonesman is ex-President George Bush, who, according to tradition, is supposed to avoid admitting he's a member, even when the question comes in the Oval Office.
Mr. President, are you a member of Skull and Bones?
I believe you, Ron.
Okay, you ever met Bush or?
Oh yes, he was a couple years behind me, but I have met him.
What we have here is a private network acting really in violation of the United States Constitution, infesting the White House, the National Security Council, the State Department, the Pentagon, the CIA, and other government institutions. And they've been carrying out a policy which was not the policy of the President or the Congress not a policy that was approved by the voters.
They are still the representatives of a long tradition, a 1,000 years tradition, from the Knights Templar through the Illuminati, through the Masons, through the Puritan families, and all of those families that went to Yale, founded Yale, and have used Yale to become powerful. Are they done? No. There's all that tradition, and it has to be protected, and it has great wealth to protect. And how do they protect it? They'll find new means. They'll hold offices. They'll hold appointive offices and elective offices, and they will be in charge of huge amounts of money.
Yeah, so I just thought that was an interesting clip. I mean, the documentary in general is amazing. I highly encourage everybody to take an hour and a half whenever you have some free time and watch the whole thing. I find things like this really serve to bridge the gap between what we're more unfamiliar with in terms of the occult and, you know, weird stuff like secret societies and stuff like that with what we see in mainstream politics. And yeah, it's just kind of a different perspective. At the very least, it's entertaining. And maybe it suggests that, you know, on some level, there are deeper connections when it comes to the ties that a lot of these really rich, powerful, influential politicians especially have. And when we see them supposedly competing against each other in these elections, it kind of raises the question, well, are these people really as much at odds with each other as they might present to the populace? So, again, don't necessarily have any answers in that respect, but those are kind of interesting questions that I think secret societies like the Skull and Bones, when we look into it, we can't help but ask. So, thank you for tuning into this episode of the Mindseed Show. I hope you found that interesting and useful, and we'll catch you next time.